Audible?
Hi, sis. How are you?
Can I be heard? Good morning. Good morning, ma. How are you?
I'm good, my darling.
All right. It's 8 o'clock. I think we're ready to go. Welcome, members, and thank you very much for joining this meeting. To try to be as possible at 10. I'm not sure if you can see me or not, but my video is activated.
Recording in progress.
I want to welcome the speaker, Latema Sondo, if present, the deputy chairperson of NCOP, if present, the STP officials, media, if they're here, and a very good morning to you as well, members. May I take this opportunity also to welcome the co-chairperson and also on behalf of the study group, pass our sincere condolences to her and her family. Cindy, are there any apologies?
Good morning, Chairperson. Yes, we've received two apologies, Member Gwahube and Member Moratsani.
Okay. Today's meeting, we need a quorum. Can you take us through the order of proceedings?
Yes, Chair, at the moment we don't have a quorum yet, so we will not be able to adopt those minutes and reports now. However, we do have sufficient members. We have a third of our members present to proceed with a briefing and the other items. As soon as we have a quorum, I will alert you.
How many members are we short of?
On the NA side, we need one more member, and on the NCOP side, we also only have 2 members at present, so we will need one more member on that side.
So for both houses, we need 1 member.
Yes, so that we have 5 on the NA side and 3 on the NCOP side.
Okay. Honorable Whip, can you please try to get members to log in so that we form a quorum? This meeting is about adoption of reports, and there's nothing that we can do if we don't form a quorum. And given the fact that members are going to be quite busy now, it's not going to be easy for us to get people attending the meeting. So can we then go to the adoption of the proposed agenda? It is the consideration and adoption of minutes of the 28th of November 2023, the report of the committee, mid-year 2023-2024 mid-year performance report, the introductory remarks by the Executive Authority on Parliament performance in the 3rd quarter, briefing by the Secretary to Parliament, performance in the 3rd quarter, discussions, then closure. Without any waste of time, Cindy, can we then, no, members, can we get the, can we then adopt, can we get the mover for the adoption of the agenda and the seconder?
Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the agenda and
Thank you
just
very much.
reorder it that we start with the speaker or the chairperson and the STP. Thank you,
With
Chair.
that proposal, with that proposal, can we get the seconder?
Memahlo, second.
Okay. STP, are you ready?
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to all the honorable members. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Before I invite you, can I, before you, Can I get an indication as to the speaker is present in the meeting or not? Can I be advised?
Chair, yes, Chair, the Executive Authority, the Speaker and the Chairperson are not present in the meeting yet.
Ma'am Lucas?
We have also not, yeah,
She's also
also not the deputies, and
okay.
we've not had an apology or anything else.
Okay, it's fine. All right, okay. STP, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning to all the honorable members. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share with the committee our statement of accountability for the Q3 financial year. Our report, Chairperson, is fairly comprehensive, but we will endeavor to truncate some of the components where the detail we assume and hope that members may have gone through some of the elements. We will do so in the interest of time, given that the members have a commitment at 10 in the House. Chairperson, on the performance for the quarter, we are covering the core mandates of Parliament. How have these mandates been executed during that quarter? And also reflect on the supportive dimension of the administration of Parliament, how it seeks to improve that work going forward. Secondly, how it has implemented some of the key commitments in those KPIs that were laid out. The fourth area of our work will then cover the financial management component and how resources of the institutions have been deployed, including governance and HR related aspects. Chairperson, this is the statement of responsibility in terms of what we were reporting on. We are tracking 31 indicators, and those indicators relate to the parliamentary program, and the others speak to member support services, and 19 are linked to the transformational targets that we have outlined in the macro strategy framework that we will be ushering in as the new Parliament starts next 2 months. We are tracking back the 5 core priorities that the current parliamentary term has outlined for its focus. Under each of those, how has Parliament in this quarter sought to strengthen oversight and accountability? How has it promoted public involvement in lawmaking? How has it deepened its international engagement? And also promotion of cooperative governance, including the lawmaking capacity of Parliament to support the execution of governance in our country. On the oversight mandate of Parliament, executive scrutiny is one of the instruments that Parliament implements. On the quarter under review, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces has asked about 1,464 questions to ministers in various portfolios, 45 portfolios that report to Parliament, as well as the select committees that report to the National Council of Provinces, but broadly focusing on those areas, improving the quality of health, environment and sustainability, security, quality education, housing, water, and sanitation. On the questions that were focused on the President and Deputy President, some of the key focus areas, amongst others, was the focus on the challenges on interest rate increases, the Presidential Remuneration Review Commission, and the impact of budget cuts on the National Defence Force. Committees spent major focus on scrutinizing the living conditions of communities, the artillery development, police operations, also looking at how Parliament's strategic plan is aligned to the National Development Plan's call for clear programs of implementation and delineation. On the area of strengthening oversight and accountability, Oral questions that were put during the question that got under review, 132 in the NA, 47 in the NCOP. Written questions posed were 1,083, 202 to the National Council of Provinces. Replies received were 122 and 47, and to written questions, 702 and 185 in the NCOP. The number of debates were increasingly more on the NA, given its scope of responsibility, and 18 in the NA. In the last quarter, Chairperson, you'll recall that the committee decried the fact that many of the questions that have been asked are not responded to. And a particular question was put that it must be looked at as a strategy to make sure that the matter of non-responses by the executive, it is addressed, and also through the leader of government business to reduce the incidences of what appears to be non-responses in many of the questions. So that reflection reflects that. On the area of the debates in the houses, 111 debates were held in the NA, 18 debates in the Council of Provinces, largely focusing on the issues that have been arranged, including the issue of the medium-term budget policy statement, physical sittings on the appointments, and also debates on the Gender Equality Commission, and also issues of ethical complaints that have been addressed, including the question of Israel-Palestine conflict and Census 22 results. Amendment to the rules was also a focus areas, including adoption by the Powers and Privileges Committee report on contempt of allegation during State of the Nation address. At NCOP level, a number of debates were held covering such topics as rural women's development, railway network modernization, combating protection fee syndicates, Africa industrialization, including the challenges of the living costs affecting communities. Challenges of state enterprises were also looked, the water quality efforts, including the address of the Deputy President, focusing on those aspects. On the issue of accountability, may I check, Chairperson, it would seem slides are not moving.
The slides are not moving.
Is that the case on the side of the...
We don't see them.
Mr. Sibande is attending to it, Secretary. The slides are not moving. They have not been moving.
Sure.
Well, they've been sent to us. Can we rely on the ones that have been sent to us? I think on our WhatsApp, so that we allow the flow of the presentation.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair.
All right, you may continue, STP.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
The STP is now gone himself.
I'm not gone, Chairperson. On the committees in terms of accountability, this is the summary of committee activities on the slides. Hopefully members can see. 411 committees were convened and 4 oversight visits were undertaken. Reports considered were 44 and statutory appointments made in that quarter were 3. On the oversight visits that were outbound, Ad hoc Committee on Disaster Relief and Recovery visited provinces of Limpopo to assess the relief impacts, including such areas as Polokwane, Tzaneen municipalities. The Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement Oversight explored concern about living conditions in Mountain View, squatter areas, and also in areas, Jif informal settlement and Langaruch and so on. And in the main, the committee sought to focus on alleged inhuman conditions that communities were facing. The Joint Standing Committee on Defense also visited the Denel munition as well as Damian shipyards to assess artillery munition as well as Project Byro progress. The committee gained insight into the status of inshore patrol vessels for the SA Navy, and also the Politon oversight. Provincial commissioners in Gauteng, Limpopo were also reporting to the committee on police station capital projects. On the statutory appointments, these are the details of those statutory appointments made. The Media Development Agency and ICASA boards, the Portfolio Committee recommended appointment of candidates, South African Human Rights Commission, commissioners' replacements, and also on the National Assembly appointment of the Public Protector, as per the ad hoc committee on the appointment of the Public Protector of the Republic of South Africa. On the lawmaking mandate of Parliament, these are the highlights on the lawmaking, the overview of the budgetary developments, a number of MTBPS processes on the division of revenue. The committees also dealt with the 2023 Adjustment Appropriation Bill, as well as the Fiscal Framework Revenue Bill. Finance clusters reviewed these money bills. On the parliamentary bill status quo, as of December 31, the end of the quarter, 56 bills were processed by the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. 38 in the NA, 17 in the National Council of Provinces. One bill was awaiting referral to the Mediation Committee. On the quarterly committee activities under strengthening legislative capacity, notable focus in that quarter was the National Youth Development Agency Amendment Bill and Preservation of the Development of Agricultural Land Bill. On the committee collaboration and legislation highlights, collaboration on quarter 3 on bills like prevention and combating of hate crimes and hate speech, divorce amendment, and cannabis for private purposes. Select committees reviewed key bills related to communication, interception, and the investigative directorate. On the area of public participation, mandate of Parliament, the Parliamentary Education Office dealt with support. In those engagement, 82 physical and virtually public hearings were held under that quarter, focusing on legislation. There was also noteworthy collaboration with International Parliamentary Union, and that resulted in best practice case study on public participation in climate change, especially on bill hearings that were held. Partnerships with parliamentary constituency offices, especially with the South African Women Lawyers Association, to expand access to Parliament program and enhance collaborative service delivery. Participation on priority bills through public hearings, the Portfolio Committee in particular on mineral resources and energy held public hearings on the 29 hearings that were held across the country on the electricity regulation bill. The Portfolio Committee on Small Business held 27 hearings on the National Small Enterprise Amendment Bill. That included active involvement in various committee hearings, hosting visitors to Parliament, and initiating urgent public participation program for priority bills. The crucial role of Parliament was also illuminated, emphasizing facilitating public participation for transparency, inclusiveness, and effective governance. On the parliamentary diplomacy mandate, international relation key highlights, the preparations for policy brief for the IPU Assembly, as well as covering such topics as global contributions on major topical issues, multilateral engagements that have been held, including at the SADC level, include the 54th SADC Parliamentary Forum, involvement in the 9th G20 Parliamentary Speakers Summit, as well as the IPU 147 Assembly held in Angola. The last components were more on multilateral engagements that were held in such countries as Namibia, Algeria, America, Bahrain, Russia, Venezuela, Cote d'Ivoire, Gibraltar, Japan, Belgium, Azerbaijan, Seychelles, Kenya, Ireland, Morocco, Tanzania, Zambia, China, Cameroon, Mozambique, and so on. Committee study tours that have been held in particular by committees during the quarter. The Portfolio Committee on Basic Education focused on best practices, visited Finland to look at education system that could be benchmarked in our country, including approaches to numeracy and literacy. The Portfolio Committee on Higher Education Innovation conducted study tour to Switzerland to observe best practices from the Switzerland's education system that could be benchmarked with South Africa's education system on such aspects as vocational education and training, governance and management, higher education issues around funding of students, academic freedom, including issues of autonomy of science and innovation. In the main, the aggregate focus of this quarter, October, November, December, dealt with 30 BRR reports. In November, 4 BRR reports. In total, 34 BRR reports and 6 scholarly reviews were undertaken, including the APP. On the lawmaking process, in summary, bills that were passed in the NA and NCOP, 15 in terms of NA and level NCOP, 7 in the NA in December, and 23 in total. Public hearings held, 48 in October, 47 in November, 102 in total. And we have covered all other aspects. On petitions that were dealt with in that quarter, 6, and meeting held were 411. On the key support KPIs out of the 31 we have covered programming targets that were achieved. In short, Honorable Chairperson and members, for quarter 3, we've achieved 71% of the targets that were outlined. The other targets are ongoing for this quarter, and we envisage that our achievements for this quarter will reflect achievement of those targets. In the main, on programming, we've achieved 100%, on service target 71%, on transformative targets on the support areas, we achieved 86%, and on support area service targets, we include 100% for the quarter. On program 1 performance, we focused on such areas as institutional strategy to improve public trust, broadcasting strategy implementation, the new implementation for realignment of programs, change management of the institution to underpin the 7th macro strategy framework. The restoration and rebuilding of Parliament has been implemented. We are also focusing on data manufacturing and gathering for data analytics for the oversight mandate of Parliament, and also digitizing member satisfaction as well as facility management. We have achieved 89% of targets under that area. On the support services for the quarter under review, we have achieved 100% and 86%. On transformational targets, we have met the target, and consultations have been done on the institutional strategy to improve public trust and also on the broadcasting strategy. On the program around change management, sessions are being held across the organization around aligning departments with the new focus around outcomes-based focus of our administration. The restoration of Parliament during the quarter under review, a number of programs have been implemented, including the cleaning that has been done around the ruined facilities in the old assembly and the new assembly, including the coverage of the roof to prevent further debris and damages during adverse weather conditions. The design process for the new building has moved in earnest, and we're now at a stage where the multi-party forum of members has been taken through that in January, and has endorsed the design philosophy for the new building, including the focus on what the pace of development should focus on the old wing and the new wing. On Monday, a multi-party delegation of members will be visiting Angola to look at the heritage dimension of the building, including the modernizing aspects of the parliament that was built 10 years ago. We are also looking at other parliaments to make sure that benchmarking is infused to the focus of our country, taking into account our own heritage realities, but also to design a parliament of the future. On the areas of I'm trying to move my slides, Chairperson. On member satisfaction, we have achieved 86 success rate in that area, including areas where we are still not satisfied. That include public participation service, where we were lacking in that quarter. The rest of other areas we have been successful, by the area of capacity building, where members were not satisfied. On the areas of targets under program 2, especially transformational targets, we achieved 64%. On the core business performance, we have achieved 100% on programming and 50% on the transformative targets. The detail of those targets include such elements as oversight priority model, the draft model to review that, the committee planning process, the country outcomes indicator dashboard to be implemented. We are at a stage of the architecture design to make sure that the focus of oversight and lawmaking takes into account the outcomes outlook in the National Development Plan, as well as the sustainable development goals that our country is tracking, to make sure that Parliament tracks those target deliveries and achievement by departments. On the impact assessment for bills, we have a draft framework to look at pre and post legislative scrutiny. We have delays on that area, and we are currently working on ensuring that by the end of this new quarter, we will be able to have worked on the draft framework, bringing together resources. Monitoring and tracking mechanism, again on this area, the target has been met, and we are at the final phases of governance around this area. Implementation of the recommendation on the State Capture Commission. These recommendations are being implemented. On this quarter, aspects on the agreed timelines by each committees are being submitted to House chairpersons to make sure that houses do track the implementation of the State Capture Commission. On areas of partnership, again, work is being done around those areas to incorporate as part of a collaborative parliament target that we've outlined. The need for constituency offices to make sure that the 7th Parliament is supported. We're currently reviewing support for constituency offices, looking at such aspects as reorganizing and also repurposing the work of the constituency offices. We are currently at engagement court, data gathering with chief whips to make sure that the design outlook takes into account the aspects of experience over the current term of office. On international relations, we're also reviewing the strategy to make sure that we deepen the international engagement of Parliament. The last aspects under this area speaks to the stakeholder engagement, implementation of the new strategy framework, and also to implement a new integrated petitions management for Parliament to cover both houses. At the programming level, work is being done, and so far we have achieved all the targets that have been set. On program 3, the support services to members during the quarter under review, we have set our targets around turnaround on reimbursement of members at 2.5 per day, meaning 2.5 days. And we are able to meet that within 2 days. It is being done. The engagement model is also being reviewed and will be finalized by March. The remedial wellness intervention report that will serve as a guide to look at training and capacity is an intervention we're putting up to deal with capacity concerns of members. And the new capacity building framework is being finalized to make sure that it enhances our support. On the last aspect, honorable members, that will be financial accountability to Parliament. During the quarter under review, our budget has been spent on the aspect of administration, as well as legislation and oversight, including the area of associate services. Members will see that in certain areas, it will reflect an over expenditure rather, on such areas as legislation oversight. That speaks to the aggressive public participation given the number of bills that went through the houses. So we had to shift funds to those areas to make sure that we don't compromise public participation. So far, we're not ideal. We are still underperforming in public participation. And the barometer to measure that is that many of our bills, once they are tested in terms of constitutional scrutiny, they are found wanting. 3 of our bills have gone through that process. So a significant shift of resources will have to be focused in the area of public participation to make sure that oversight and lawmaking, they are done in such a manner that we meet the 2 tests of constitutional mastery, adequacy of public participation, including meaningfulness of public participation. So far, we're falling short on those. Overall, in that quarter, we spent 93% of our budget. On the area of annual aggregate versus expenditure, for the Q3, we have spent 72% of our budget. We don't envisage any overspending, except in such areas as funds that are drawn from the National Revenue Fund, which is member support services in terms of remuneration and the welfare of members. That fund is recoverable in terms of the National Treasury regulations. On the area of the sub-programs during the quarter, we have outlined in the slide under question, the expenditure that we have made in terms of comparison and also areas where there's been underspending. The disaster fund is the underperforming expenditure area. That speaks to the reconstruction of Parliament. And so far, we have not spent in that quarter, precisely because we are at design phase. And once design phase is completed, it will speak to the detailed design cost drivers. So at the signed execution plan, then start taking shape. We envisage that by August this year, the contractor that must start with the demolition project of the old wings should be on site to start the demolition of the ruined buildings. In January next year, we envisage that the assembling of site for the new contractor to be in place to be ready for the rebuilding phase that must start in April 2025. The timelines remain the same to complete the building by December 2025. The areas where we have spent on the restoration is the provision of refurbished offices for members, where we have completed 105 offices. We are now remaining with 74 offices, and we are at advanced stage of securing 90 Plain Street, removal of the major tenants that have occupied about 8 floors there, the Deeds Register Office and the Surveyor General's Office. We are waiting their relocation, which we envisage to take place in March, so that we complete the provision of 74 offices and the committee rooms that are deficient in Parliament. So that when the 7th Parliament starts, at least the functioning of committees on offices of members is not compromised. And also, we make sure that a permanent house for members to sit during full sittings is identified and in place. So we are working in earnest to do that. On the direct charges, as I've indicated, that's the area we are projecting an overspending of 70 million, and we envisage that this will be recoverable and is attributable to the adjustment that has been made on the remuneration of members. On the appropriation statement, the allocation that has been spent is 93% of the 789.9 million for the budget. And we also project that the full appropriation budget will be spent at the end of the year, except the rebuilding project, as I've underlined. My apology, Chair, my slide is not moving. On the financial performance by economic classification, again, the overall spending by that quarter is sitting at 93%. I've already indicated on the annual budget versus expenditure to date that we're at 72%. On the financial performance, again, in that area, it does reflect that if you were to remove the area of underperformance on the restoration, the disaster fund, our expenditure is at 93 and 72% if you include it. We have outlined the details of the drivers of this, Chairperson. I won't spend much time. Compensation of members, compensation of employees, including areas of capital transfers and transfer payment made to political parties. All of those have been dispensed with within the budget. On the human resource accountability for the quarter under review, the key areas around voluntary early retirement is one area where we are underperforming grossly. We were targeting that by now. Almost more than 100 employees would have voluntarily taken this offering, especially employees in the 55 and 65 years zone. But so far, 5 employees have been processed for early retirement. We have since had an engagement with Labour yesterday to encourage a high volume of uptake around this voluntary early retirement to reduce pressure on the budget of Parliament. On the area of wellness, the most utilized service was professional counseling. On the learning focus areas, 380 employees have been supported and been enrolled on training activities. On talent acquisition by Parliament, 16 new appointments were made under that quarter, of which 7 were internal and 9 were external. The culture review framework has been undertaken, is being rolled over this period. And on the labor relations during that quarter, 9 employees have been put under disciplinary measures, of which 9 have been suspended, who are going through a number of disciplinary actions. On labor relations, we have also started the process of review of policies of Parliament and also review of the value proposition of the employer and the employees to strike the right balance. We are also looking at ongoing engagement in the collective bargaining to make sure that harmony in the coordination of services across provinces is achieved, and also to operationalize and ground the groundbreaking 3-year multi-agreement that we have reached as a sector to usher in labor relations in the sector, stability in the sector. On the governance aspect, meetings have been held by the executive authority. Executive committees were not held in that quarter, but in September were held. On the area of management meetings, EXCO, 3 meetings have been held under management. Risk Management Committee also met during the quarter under review. The Policy Committee met during the quarter under review. The Audit Committee also met on 29 November, 30th November, and 13 December, 3 times in the quarter under review. On the compliance of Parliament in terms of the financial management for that quarter, we have complied and met all the deadlines of submissions in terms of the financial management, the tablings that are required, the submission of the second quarter, the tablings of the quarters in the houses, the midterm budget and performance review has been achieved in that quarter. In November, the tablings have been done, submissions have been achieved. In December, submission was done in November. The only aspect we have not met was the tabling of the November financial statements that were planned to be submitted in December, but were only actually submitted in January, on the 5th of January, owing to the difficulties of that transition of December. The upcoming matters, Chairperson, for the committee in the subsequent meeting, we would like to take through the Joint Standing Committee on the legacy report for the SEX Parliament, the draft reports. It was also raised in the Chief Whips Forum that by end of March, we must be ready for that. We would also, once the draft are in place, we are working on them to table these to the Joint Standing Committee. The second aspect of our priority is to present the transitional plan for the 7th Parliament, now that the date of election has been proclaimed as 29th of May, 2024. So I would like to take the committee through the transitional plan as well as the Chief Whips Forum. The revised APP and budget, as informed by FMPLA, it immediately triggers the 6 months horizon for us to start reviewing those areas around the draft APP. We would also follow those processes and take to the Joint Standing Committee. The preparation for the 7th Parliamentary Strategic Plan we presented to the committee in October last year and indicated in detail that we would like to usher in an outcomes-based focus by Parliament to make sure that our 7th Parliament becomes truly transformative with oversight focusing on outcomes realization. Many of the themes that have been focusing on will now have a dimension of responsiveness, caring interventions, as well as a stakeholder-centric Parliament. That also includes focus on how to support Parliament to implement recommendation of various commissions and panels that have been undertaken on oversight, including the execution of the outbound mission of oversight. So a helicopter view of the next focus, Chairperson, that we will take the committee in detail is how we would look at deeper scrutiny. The example before the slide, we're looking, for instance, at education outcomes. So if we shift to outcome-driven oversight, the committee in October looked at the BRR reports. The basic education, for instance, vote number 16 and 17 was scrutinized. And in that vote, spending was 99% by the Department of Education, yet performance was 53%. When you look at outcomes that have been achieved and reported, from the throughput, 1.177 children entered grade 1 in 2011. In 2022, 752 students wrote matric. Yet out of those students, 100 learners started in matric, 50 to 60 made it to matric, only 40 to 50% passed the matric, and out of those, 14 went to university. So how do you link expenditure of 99% with outcomes of 53%? So deeper scrutiny in terms of oversight, linking achievement and expenditure of budget to realize national rural outcomes will be a central core for focus of committees. And we're working on data analytics to resource committees of Parliament to focus on that. The weakness of oversight, again, looking at education as an example, honorable members, pit latrines in many of our schools. An example is Eastern Cape, 3,000 schools during the year under review, KZN 983, Mpumalanga 59, Northwest 19, Free State 5. 3,000 of these pit latrines taking a lot of time to students. And you are looking at funds that have been returned to the national fiscus. It requires 930 million rand to wipe out those backlogs. 910 million rand was returned to the national fiscus. So during BRR reports, scrutiny needs to focus on the interrelationship between expenditure as well as the realized outcomes and begin to take a deeper insight into those areas. So at remedial action to ministries begin to speak to that. At the level of Water and Sanitation Committee that we have also scrutinized, we are looking at expenditure on conditional grants. An example of this is Free State, where a number of wastewater treatment plants are broken down. So the Committee of Water and Sanitation received those reports. Yet at the end of March, the Department of Water and Sanitation indicated that it will require 900 million rand to fix those. And those cover 50% of the population of the country in Gauteng, the major high population density areas, including Northwest and Northern Cape rather. Yet the fund was returned to the fiscus. So we want to link oversight to intended outcomes. So at priority planning in committees, they are receiving deeper insight from the administration to make sure such intervention yield the desired outcomes that Parliament would want to see. These are just examples of how we want to move in that direction for a deeper scrutiny on oversight. Lastly, Chairperson, on the area of my slide has freezed. So in short, Chairperson, we are presenting this third quarter report to Parliament for its consideration, and also to note the outcoming focus areas for us, the 7th Parliament, as well as the priority planning in terms of the strategic plan of Parliament. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, STP. We note and welcome the report. Members, I will open the floor for further engagements. If there are any seeking questions that members would like to raise, or general contributions that members would want to make. The floor is open. I see the hand of Member Singh, and yeah, he's the only one at the moment. You may proceed, Member Singh.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks to STP for that very comprehensive report. There are just a few areas that I'd like to touch on, and one is fully physical sitting for the 7th Parliament. What progress has been made in that regard? In terms of sourcing venue or venues that will be suitable for that when the 7th Parliament reconvenes. Secondly, my questions will focus around human resources, and one is the early retirement. The voluntary service packages, are they incentivized so that those that don't even reach the age threshold will have some kind of incentivization to retire earlier? The next question on human resources is the number of unfilled and acting posts, because I'm aware that there are some senior managers that have been acting for 3, 4, 5 years. Could we have a list of that? Because for people to act for such a long time, and one that comes in mind is the registrar for members' interests. When I get to correspondence, I always see acting. I just want to know what's happening in that regard to fill that post and any other management post that we may have. And my last question, Honorable Chairperson, would relate to the suspended staff. Now, we've had this report in the third quarter. What kind of progress is being made in that disciplinary hearing? Because it seems to be taking quite some time now. And are there any particular timelines that can be shared with us, and the process that is underway at the moment to ensure that we finalize those hearings as soon as is possible? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Khai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm still 1 hour to the end of the load shedding, so I'm still on load shedding from 6, Chair. So I won't open my video with your permission. Chair, I would like to first greet you and all the honorable members, the STP and the team. We welcome, Chair, the presentation by the STP. There have been progress, some progress registered in terms of the targets. For example, there were some targets that were lagging with regard to the last report, but now there has been an improvement with regard to that. So we welcome that. For example, compared to last time on broadcasting strategy, now there's progress with regard to that. It is now on green. Last time, I think it was on progress or red. The model and scenario tools, there's progress with regard to that. It is now on green. The stakeholder framework also on green. Just that there are still some reds with regard to the oversight priority model, the committee planning, the country outcome indicator, and a partnership. But what I'm also not sure of, Chair, that with regard to the target on the review of the support for constituent offices, last time it was green, but now it's red. Don't know if we could get an explanation with regard to that. Then also under the strengthening oversight and accountability, the questions to the executive. For example, in the NA, there were 132 oral questions and 122 replies, meaning that there's 10 that was outstanding. So I just want to find out what happens to that 10. Is it carried over to the next set of questions in the next quarter? Similarly, with the written question, there were 1,083 in the NA, 702 were responded to or there were replies to. A huge number of 381 that remains unanswered in the third quarter. So also the same question, what happens to that 381? Similarly with the NCOP, I think with regard to oral question, the number was 47, all 47 were responded to. And then the written question, 202, 185 has been responded to on the written question. There's 17. So if it could be clarified as to what's going to happen with those. The next issue, Chair, is the strengthening under the strengthening of legislative capacity. The list of bills that are indicated that were processed in the third quarter, but there's one bill that is awaited referral to the mediation committee. I'm interested on this one, Chair, because I was involved in this particular. It was in the committee that I chair. My worry about this, because it keeps on coming as a issue that is awaited referral to the mediation committee. If you go to the NA programming committee, it will be there when bills are reported, but there seems to be no progress with regard to this. My worry is that the National Gambling Board was dissolved in the fifth administration. Now it is under administration. The CEO is the administrator who's running that institution without any accounting authority. That bill was meant to address such things, but unfortunately, through the processes of the legislation, then there was a kind of like a stalemate because it was rejected in the NCOP. And obviously now it has to go to the mediation, but that has not yet been triggered, that process. Now, there's nothing happening in the entity that the institution or the entity is run by the administrator, who happens to be the CEO. Now, I would like to suggest, because I know I've been discussing this informally with the secretary to the NCOP, that in terms of the rules, John rules, it says that the matter must be referred to the mediation, but then after it has been referred, and then there's no progress with, in 30 days, then that bill lapses. Now it can't lapse because it has not been formally referred to the mediation committee. So I would rather suggest that perhaps we should trigger that process, that at least it be referred, and then after 30 days it lapses, so that then the department can see what to do next. Otherwise, now even the department can't introduce another legislation when this legislation is still in Parliament. So we are holding the department at ransom if we are not processing the processes that relate to the mediation process. So I just wanted to raise that point, because I know it's always been in the two programming committees of the two houses. Then on deepening engagement in the international fora, I saw that I think next Friday there's going to be the PGIR. I was so struck with the number of reports that are going to go to that particular platform or meeting. And it's always been the case. There's a very big gap between the last and the next PGIR meetings. And now I wanted to suggest that perhaps what we need to do, perhaps in the 7th Parliament, is to strengthen the focus groups, so that this report then go directly to those focus groups. But those focus groups must be capacitated. They must have a human resource that is responsible, just like the other, committees, the statutory committees, like the select committees or portfolio committee. They must have the capacity and staff that is provided for such focus, so that at the level of PGIR, just a summary and also the policy matters that are discussed at that level, that then would have to go to the two houses in their plenaries. So those are the issues, Chair, I just wanted to raise. Otherwise, I'm happy with the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ntategai. There's a hand of Mam Lesoma. That's the last hand, then STP will respond.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and good morning to honorable members and the Secretary to Parliament and his delegation and everybody on the platform. May I apologize why I delayed? I'm at the airport, so I was trying to get a good space so that I can raise my hand, Chair. That's why my apology for that. True, Chair, let me also share the same sentiment of welcoming the presentation and also comparing to the previous terms approach in terms of the reporting and the details of, which is a great encouragement. Having said that, Chair, what triggered my hand is around the expenditure and the actual output on the ground or customer satisfaction, is it where the example of schools and performance of learners' performance, especially in grade 12 and other grades. That probably that one STP is that it's a more of a multi-pronged approach in terms of looking at that, because also there are other stakeholders that has to play a responsibility around that, your school governing bodies and parents as well, and the social environmental causes that causes or impact in terms of the dropouts for whatever good reason. I think probably you were too summative in terms of dealing with that, because it's not only the end product of the results, but also during the course of the year and what other negative impacts that impacts to learners in particular. But I think we are encouraged, but also same on schools example that we have used in terms of peak trains, probably strengthening the oversight of the portfolio committees. Also, we must look at what are the reasons, what other departments can assist, or a multidisciplinary portfolio committees in terms of oversight. We've got your DPME, which is a standalone committee now, and also you've got your DPSA, which has got a role there, which has got also NSG in terms of also looking at the capacity. But one is encouraged with the recent bill that has gone through the NA, which is going to NCOP very soon in terms of single public service. I know there are other issues, but I'm saying in terms of sharing the technical capacity across all spheres of government. The other one, Chair, that I would like to raise moving forward for the 7th Parliament is the issue of how best can we also utilize the support that committees have, your content advisor and your researcher. If we look at the time of the sittings of committees, for an example, a committee that starts at 10 which means it's only have got only 3 hours to engage on the issues. But the research and the content advisor output in terms of us expecting also to have something to say in their performance, they are not given enough time to produce their product to the committee or present their product, which can be a value add. I'm not saying that members don't have the capacity in terms of doing their own research and analyze the report as it were. But to fairness to them doing the value add, I think, I know, Honorable Chair, you will remember when we were still a chairperson of DPSA, you had said that 30 minutes at least, so that also we can be appreciating their work, not only to meet them when we are expected to assess them, or sometimes we think that they are only supporting the chairs. The other one, moving forward for the sixth parliament, because we can't do anything now. While it's good that we are reporting on the study tours, but also we must also dive in terms of the value add of those study tours, whether they find expression in terms of the areas that members would have highlighted that should be also fused in the workings and the approach of Parliament. Other than that, I'm fine. I've been covered by Honorable Khai's points as well on other matters. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Malisoma. STP?
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members. The issues raised by Honorable Singh on the early retirement, are we incentivizing this? Yes, the structure of the program as it stands has an incentivizing component, meaning that for any employee who leave, there is an additional 3 months enhancement of their retirement to encourage uptake. We have, however, had a less appetite, and through that, discussions have been held by management and labor put forward proposition of a 6 months sweetener. And given our limited resources, it has not been easy to accommodate that request. We have had discussions yesterday with labor and put forward some ideas on how we can come together around this area and find a middle ground, particularly in areas where Parliament will be evaluating its human capital, will be evaluating future fit Parliament, and what kind of administration must assist that future fit. Such areas that we are learning from post-COVID reality, whether we need to de-emphasize capacity growth in certain areas in favor of enhancing capacity in other areas where hitherto we may be under-capacitated, or new developments that require us to get into a digitized operating model. So those assessments will then inform how do we then create an incentive targeting in areas where it is less impacting negatively to workers, but at the same time assist Parliament to make adjustments. So we'll be working collaboratively with labor to examine those particularities. As it is now on the issue of acting as well as unfilled positions, we will make the list available. We have done the assessment around this work. There is a number of acting positions that on my arrival in Parliament, I've asked for an assessment in terms of specificity. How many people have been acting since when? And the answer I found was a chilling answer. We have people who have been acting in Parliament for 9 years, for 8 years, for 7 years, for 6 years, and so on. And those positions, it's either we need them and therefore we need that capacity. A case in point, Honorable Singh, is the question of the registrar of members' interest. It is more than 7 years the position has been vacant. And this is one area we are prioritizing now, including Sergeant at Arms for the National Assembly, and also looking at areas where we are currently tankering the public participation area and the managerial capacity for committees of Parliament. So those areas we are focusing on. The issues of security we have fulfilled. The issues of long lead filling of positions for the finance department. Within 6 months, we fill the position of chief financial officer. And within less than a year, we filled the position of a chief of security of parliament, to make sure that we can stabilize areas of vulnerability. We have now set up an ad hoc committee to make sure that all positions that are critical, funded, and necessary to top up capacity, we are filling those positions. On the area of reviewal of policies, to make sure that if we appoint somebody to act simultaneously, if the position is required, then we must fill the position. And that's what are some of the interventions we're putting up in place. So yes, honorable member, we're focusing on agents on this matter, and the list as requested shall be made available. On the areas of suspended employees, the work that we are currently doing, I'm not sure whether the chief legal advisor is present in the platform, and if she would want to give a high-level summary of where the
That's interference. I'm not sure.
I think Mr. Mashlala is disturbing the meeting, Chair, and I'm sure now the person who was trying to mute him muted the STP instead.
Yes, Mr. High, apologies, that was me. I thought it was Mr. Sibanda's
is chief legal
back.
advisor
Can you
present?
continue?
If not, chairperson, I can move in speed and give the high level.
No, we can hear you. Cindy
Advocate Adikare,
Good morning. Thank you very much.
can
Good
you
morning.
provide the high level summary of progress?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning. There are 11 matters that we are currently proceeding with. There were 12 matters that were flagged. Of the
Please
12
speak closer to the gadget.
Is that better, Honourable Chair?
No, please try to raise your voice.
Can you hear me now?
That's better, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, honourable members. Good morning, Secretary. There are 12 matters that we are proceeding with. Of the 12 matters, there are 9 suspended. 3 disciplinary matters have been completed, and we are waiting the outcome by around 10th of March. The other matters are all proceeding. 1 matter we're placing on hold. The person is unwell, so there are currently 11 matters that we are proceeding with, but they're all proceeding quite well. There have been a few delays, of course, with the closing of Parliament, and 1 or 2 other delays in individual matters because people have asked for postponements and other in limine issues that have arisen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. On the issues raised by Honourable Khai, on noting and appreciating the progress being made on the paradigm shift, the review of constituency offices work is being done, and I would later on ask my 2 colleagues, Mr. Kaso and Dr. Gabriel, to reflect on the key work done so far in terms of us finalizing the data gathering and the framing of that work. The questions carried over between NA and NCOP around that quarter, Mr. Kaso and Advocate Pindela would guide procedurally in terms of whether they are carried over, remain unanswered, and they are part of the next quarter or not. How do we keep track of the unanswered questions? I didn't quite hear properly the issue of the National Gambling Board. Safe to say that I did hear that the mediation committee seems not to be effective, and what can be done to make sure that it doesn't frustrate the functioning of a department. What progress is being done, what can be done to expedite the mediation committee. If the matter is a procedural issue, I would ask my colleagues to respond. But if it's a matter that may require, perhaps through you, Chair, the relevant committee chairs of the mediation committees, it might be required that perhaps the matter be undertaken at that level. I'm not sure. I would ask further guidance. On the deepening engagement on the international fora in terms of the focus group to be capacitated. Indeed, we will be able to assist in the capacitation. Part of our macro organizational review, which is at advanced stage now, would also entail revisiting portfolios in each of the components of our business to make sure that divisions of parliament are enhanced, and that would also include the capacitation of international relations area. So at PGIR is assisted to be strengthened on its major work of IR. Honorable Suma, I agree with you entirely. The point, we are exposing those incongruences between what the focus is and what the surface issues are versus the underpinning issues is more about challenging the robustness of our oversight as Parliament to make sure that administration of Parliament must surface more data. It must invest on data analytics, data intelligence to make sure that oversight is data intense and informed. So that requires investment by Parliament, and we have started to work on that area. So when we speak about incongruence between national development outcomes versus inputs made, the budgets, the expenditure, and realized outcome, is more about challenges as to take a deep dive. As you correctly say, there may be environmental factors like dysfunctionality of school governing bodies, the material conditions that children face at home. They do contribute to higher levels of dropout. So when such issues are required, part of our work will be to make sure that we surface that data so that committees can then make remedial suggestions to departments to make sure that it tracks consistently and robustly the attainment of national development outcomes and points out when such plans will be threatening those areas. The researchers and content advisors, to make sure that they can utilize properly, we are in agreement on that area. We are spending time. I would also, in the month of March, be arranging to meet with content advisors and researchers in the core business to make sure that we are able to understand potential areas of strengthening that work, but also to make sure that we can make optimum use of such capacity in the organization. So thank you very much. Those are the areas, and I would ask Mr. Kaso and my colleagues on the constituency, as well as any procedural issues around carryover of questions and mediation committee procedures, if there are any issues to raise.
For you, Chairperson, and I would like to, Ms. Masubula Kaso, I would like to comment on the gambling bill. What I can report is that in 2023, the Speaker wrote to the Minister to establish the desirability of the bill. In other words, whether it was still necessary for Parliament to proceed with the bill. And of course, the response to that is still outstanding. But then what will happen to this bill? When we get to the end of the term, which is happening in a month or 2 months' time, this bill, together with all other business before Parliament, will lapse. It will obviously be up to the next Parliament what to do with it, whether to reactivate the bill and any other business before the Houses. On questions, oral replies that were outstanding, what this means is that in a typical sitting or question session, you could have, let's say, 30 questions. But in that session, you only reached 15 questions. And what is required in terms of the rules is that the ministers or the ministries must submit those replies that were not, the replies to the questions that were not reached, for the replies to be published in the Hansard. So when we say replies outstanding, it means that those replies which were not, for the questions that were not reached, were not submitted immediately. Maybe they were submitted 2 days hence. So that is what that means. In terms of questions for written reply, the report will reflect questions for written reply or replies to questions that were outstanding in that quarter. So these replies would then have been submitted later, maybe in the next quarter, or and what happened, in fact, they were submitted, and all questions lapsed at the beginning of January, at the end of the quarter. So for written replies, it's questions that were not submitted in that quarter, or replies that were not submitted in that quarter, and therefore would have lapsed later on. The issue of constituency offices, I would request Dr. Gabriel to respond to that through you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Council. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members. Good morning, Secretary. We have looked at the reorganization and rebranding of the parliamentary constituency offices of the Speaker and the Chairperson, which is regarded as the benchmark that happened during this term of Parliament. And further to that, there have been engagements with other PCOs as well as some members of Parliament. So currently we are gathering the data and consolidating into a report for further consultation and developing a concept document for then proposed for consideration and endorsement. Thank you, Chair.
STP.
Very much, Chairperson. Advocate Pindela's hand is up. Maybe he wants to add something on the procedural issues.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, Secretary of Parliament, and colleagues. The process in the National Council of Provinces is different from the process in the National Assembly insofar as questions for oral reply are concerned. So far as the National Council of Provinces is concerned, a day is set aside for the questions for oral reply. So all questions for oral reply would be responded to in that sitting. That is why the National Council of Provinces does not have any questions for oral reply that are outstanding. And insofar as questions for written reply are concerned, the first point might be that the replies were not due at the time when the report was compiled. Secondly, if the question for written reply has not been responded to or has not been replied to, a member may, in terms of the rule, request that a question for written reply be converted to a question for the question for written reply be converted for question for oral reply. And in that sense, then it will form part of the question paper on the day when the questions for oral reply are responded to in the House. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. That's all on our side.
Asmonge. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the report. STP, when we started, there was nothing. But we see the light at the end of the tunnel. The 7th Parliament will definitely take over and continue. I have no doubt, members, that we've laid a solid foundation. Thank you very much for your contribution, STP. Your arriving to Parliament has definitely changed and strengthened the institution. We thank you. I see there's a hand of Honorable Singh. I'm not sure if it's a legacy hand or there's something
thank you, Chair.
Want to raise.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a quick follow-up. Thank you for the responses. The officials that are suspended, are they being paid? I think STP must just touch on that. And then the question of permanent space, when the 7th Parliament starts whilst construction is carrying on. And I just want to know in terms of labor law, when people have to act for the periods that you indicated, some 7 years, some 9 years, can legal check that out, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Indeed, we will check that and provide the response to the committee. What we are not sure of, Chair, is whether when we we report on the fourth quarter. Depending on the business of the houses, the joint standing would be able to still meet and receive those. We could respond at that time in terms of update, if there shall be such an engagement for the last quarter before the elections. The issue of payment of employees facing internal actions on labor relations. Yes, all employees have been placed on precautionary suspension, and all the benefits that accrue to any employees, they are equally entitled. It is merely for enabling internal processes to run their course. We are encouraged by progress that has taken place, save in those areas that Advocate Adhikari has indicated, which is common in many of these matters, to have intervening factors. We are, however, striving to make sure that these matters are concluded as speedily as we can, having started in January. So thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, STP. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we move to the next agenda item? You are excused, STP.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Yes, there will definitely be provision for, I think we'll still have time to have another meetings. There will definitely be provision for that. We'll work on it.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you. The next item requires a quorum. We are 20 minutes before the house sitting, NA house sitting. I'm not sure if we can agree to suspend this or we consider the report, and maybe at a later stage during the week when we are able to correct, then we just sit and we reconvene and adopt the quorum. Cindy, can you advise if we still need a quorum, or are we correcting?
Chair, since the start of the meeting, we also received Bella Shango's apology because she's attending the State of the Province in Mpumalanga. So we, on the NA side, NCLP, on the NA side, we have sufficient members, but on the NCLP side, we only have member High and member Brachteses, and we need 3 members. In terms of our program, we have a scheduled meeting on Tuesday at lunchtime to adopt, to look at the legacy report. So we can also adopt these 2 documents in that meeting. But for now, we don't have a quorum because on the side, we have 2 apologies and 1 member is not in attendance.
Okay, can we defer this item to Tuesday? Members?
Chair, we would like to refer it to Tuesday, but it will depend if myself and the Honorable Mashlo will be away, but it will depend if we'll be able to log in the country where we'll be on Tuesday, because that could also affect the quorum as well next week.
Oh, yes.
But we can say tentatively.
Are you traveling? Are you part of the delegation to Angola?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sure there's connectivity there. Our time zone is the same.
Yeah, let's say let's refer it to Tuesday.
Yeah, please, whatever happens, just give us your 30 minutes. We're in the same time zone, and you are also. I'm sure there is internet there.
Okay.
So, okay, fine. Then we're deferring this to the next special meeting, which will be on Tuesday. That will then go for the adoption of minutes as well, Cindy?
Yes, Chair. We've got one set of minutes. With today's one, it will be two sets.
Okay.
And one report and our legacy report.
All right. Can I request that you round all the members so that on Tuesday, at least we know that we can spend 30 minutes to go through the reports and any other related items, but that we communicate that we need the quorum for Tuesday. Because if we're not going to adopt the report, then we're going to be left behind. And I don't see us being able to meet anytime soon again, except for the last meeting.
Yes, Chair, yes, Chair, we've got meetings on the 5th, the 8th, the 15th, and the 26th still. But those are going to be heavy meetings where the administration will be giving final progress reports before Parliament adjourns.
Okay,
so
then
we won't be able to adopt.
Okay, then let's push this for Tuesday.
Okay.
Can we make sure that on Tuesday we correct everybody's present? We adopt all the outstanding. If possible, bring these minutes as well.
Yeah.
Bring these minutes as well so that we then go through all the minutes, all the outstanding minutes and the reports. And yes, okay.
So, Chairperson?
Yes, Tim?
Chairperson, yeah, I just want to know, will the meeting on Tuesday be at 1 o'clock? Because I'm flying that morning to Cape Town. If it can just be at 1 o'clock, then I can be present.
Yes, it is during lunchtime. You'll be around. What is the specific time for the meeting, Cindy?
We've got I'm sure we've got permission to sit from 1 until 2.
Okay. So we only have 1 hour, members, on Tuesday. So if we log in on time, and we also make sure that wherever we are, we log in so that we correct. All right. That brings us to the end of our meeting. We'll then see each other on Tuesday, 1 o'clock. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair.
And members will meet now in the chambers. Thank you.